Good afternoon. Regular session, Mayor and City Council meeting, 6 p.m. Wednesday, March 1st, City Hall Complex. Call this meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Councilwoman Lopez.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Today's invocation, and we'll have.
Good evening.
Can I present you, sir?
Myself, my name is Julian Coriol, and unfortunately, some would say I grew up in Bisbee, but both of our children went through 12 years of school in Nogales, graduating from Nogales High School back in the 70s, and we've been happy participants in the Nogales experience since the late 1950s. And thank you for the gracious invitation to participate with you this evening, and let us look to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for those willing to serve our community by being on this council. We're grateful for people who make the effort to serve, make decisions, study plans, and strive to make Nogales a better place for all of us who live here. This council needs your wisdom to make good choices, needs renewed energy to put up with criticism, good or misguided, and needs insight into the needs of the community. We ask for stamina to stay the course, willingness to hear other opinions that may conflict with their own, patience with people who say unkind things about them, sometimes without knowing, and kindness toward those who don't see the struggles they face. Give them renewed energy when they grow weary with the infighting. Help those of us who live here to uphold them in our prayers, knowing that you, the eternal God, are really interested in what happens in Nogales. And we thank you and ask this in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Cortello. Appreciate it. Now we got a call to the public. We got Ms. Marta Rodriguez. Can you please come forward, state your name and address, please? 2 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Jorge Maldonado, board members, and all attendees. My name is Marta Rodriguez. My address is 1456 West Camino Campestre. It's been 15 days with no water running across country right. That was affecting us as a community. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your attention you gave us to resolve this issue. We would like to know what was causing this situation. We would like to know if it is temporary, or we would like to know if this can be prevented. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Next, we have call to the public, Eugene Goldsmith. Please state. Okay. Now, Mr. Eugene, I'll let you talk when we come to the agenda item. Okay? I appreciate it. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation. Presentation number one is to recognize a young gentleman, Juan Pablo Lopez, on his achievement on a gold medal on representing the Arizona Tennis Experience Invitational held in Virginia. Besides presenting this certificate of achievement, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Omar Garcia, that they have donated to the city an award for us to give to Mr. Lopez. Mr. Omar, can you please come forward? Yes, yes.
Good evening, Mayor George Maldonado, council members. First of all, I would like to thank you for accepting us in this topic, putting us in the agenda. Special thanks to Councilwoman Esther Melendez. And last meeting, when I was here, a name came up of a senior at the Nogales High School was doing a senior project. And I was really surprised by the project that he presented to you as far as doing things for the community. It's things that we don't hear about sometimes that are very impressive. And I was impressed by that itself. Kids taking the time to do something for the community. Now what brings us here together today is about a very special young man by the name of Juan Pablo Lopez. Juan Pablo Lopez, if you turn to page 3, he began playing at the age of 5 years old, being diagnosed with intellectual disability. It's a rare chromosomal disorder that often affects speech, cognitive, and motor skills. So the parents, Mike and Jessica, got involved, and the doctor and said that tennis was the best, probably sport or something that he could go in and actually progress. And to our surprise, the progress that he made is exceptional. And I remember Mike Lopez telling me, my son, I'm teaching how to play tennis. Oh, that's good. Then a few years later, he says, my son is catching up to me. I said, great, that's really good news. And then just a few months ago, hey, my son is beating me. And then a few days ago, he says, he doesn't want to play with me anymore because I have no competition. Which brings me to the fact that, Juan Pablo was actually, I applied for the Special Olympics tennis tournament that has been going on for 15 years in the United States. And there was 32 individuals that were accepted. And there was no age group. I found out this early today. So he's not only participated with the under 18, but he actually beat a 25-year-old for the gold medal, which is very, very impressive. And he not only represented Nogales, he represented the state of Arizona. And to me, that's priceless. It should be for all of us. With that being said, I don't know if any questions, but I gave you some copies, and it tells you just briefly what he has accomplished, many tournaments, and I understand now he's going to the United States Tennis Association tournament, and he's going to have the support of the community. And he has the support of the friends, family, relatives, and well, anyways, to make this short, I don't know if you have any questions for mom or dad, if that's permissible, that you want to ask questions. Okay. Now, with that in mind, my employer said, it's something that doesn't happen often or never has happened. So we wanted to give the city an award that you can hand out on behalf of the community, behalf of the mayor and city council members that represents every single one of us. So at this time, I don't know if it's permissible that I can give you
Yes.
the award and you can come forward and
Okay.
hand it over to the Lopez family.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
With that, besides, come on up, Omar. We're going to give Mr. Juan Pablo Lopez also a certificate of achievement presented to Juan Pablo Lopez, given this first day of March 2023 in recognition of outstanding dedication and commitment gold medal winner, Special Olympics 2023 Experience Tennis Tournament, signed by myself, Mayor Maldonado. Congratulations, mijo. Right. I would follow up on it.
Mike, can you come forward and take a picture with us?
De parte de la ciudad, de que de parte de aquí de Omar y la comunidad, queremos presentar con este reconocimiento. Dice Special Olympics Virginia, Juan Pablo López, Gold Medal, Special Olympics 2023 Experience Tennis Tournament. Muchas felicidades. Sigue echando ganas. Todo el mundo aquí te quiere mucho, a tus padres, y todos estamos muy orgullosos de ti.
Sí.
¿Ok? Muchas gracias.
Ahí con la lista.
Qué felicidades, ¿no?
¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está?
I thought you were thinking something else. Yeah, this one went up the road. Yo digo, no, no, sí.
That was a very nice thing to do, Omar, and thank you to all the community for the support for this young gentleman. That was great to have kids in our community go out, especially out of the city, out of the state, and bring these achievements. It's just great. Anything for kids, that's what we're here for. Next item, presentation number 2. Presentation and possible action, Aisa Huerta from Santa Cruz County School Office Arts and Programs in reference to a mural project at Anza Park in collaboration with the Border Youth Tennis Exchange Program. Ms. Travers, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before I introduce them, I just want to give you a little bit of background of the BITE program. We've been working with them for many years now, and I believe this project has been in the works for about 2 years for a mural up at the Anza wall in front of the tennis courts. Along with collaborating on other possible art projects in the parks, I'm going to introduce Aisa Huerta, and she'll give you some more background.
Thank you so much for having us with you here today. We're super excited to be able to be here in 2019 when Jack and other artists came before Mayor Garino. It was with mural proposals. It was just ideas that we had for art in the downtown area. And so today in this presentation, we can see a little bit of the progress that's been made as a whole in this community. But before I start, I'm going to let Jack Subeli Gonzalez talk a little bit about the Border Youth Tennis Exchange.
Gracias. Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mayor Jorge Maldonado, mujeres y hombres del Consejo. Mi nombre es Jack Subeli González, Jackie, para los amigos, soy nogalense de corazón y soy la directora de operaciones mexicanas de Border Youth Tennis Exchange, o BYTE, como nos gusta llamarle. Y como mencionaba René y Aiza, BYTE ha estado en ambos lados de la frontera durante 7 años. Inició como un programa de verano en el 2015 y empezó a crecer por esa necesidad de ofrecer a ambas comunidades, a ambos nogales, ofrecer actividades que son deportivas, promover el arte y promover sobre todo actividades educativas que pudieran apoyar a niños, niñas, adolescentes, jóvenes de nuestra comunidad. Y el día de hoy estoy muy complacida de poder estar aquí y ofrecerles a ustedes la información de un proyecto que traemos entre manos desde hace un par de años, como mencionaban, porque hemos estado trabajando en lo que es el Parque de Anza. Y dentro del Parque de Anza ya se han hecho algunas modificaciones con todo el apoyo de la ciudad. Y en este caso, Aiza les dará más detalles del proyecto que tenemos para murales y la propuesta que tenemos para ustedes el día de hoy.
So BYTE has a lot of programs in the community that they're able to collaborate. Not one single program, I think, would able to be achieved as much as they do on their own without these collaborations. These are a few pictures of the tennis park at the Anza courts now after the resurfacing from the USTA Tennis Association grant. And this is what the wall looks like now. It's a 1,200 square foot wall and it takes up a large amount of the park. It is also the backdrop to where the kids play every day. This was the court before the resurfacing. And this is the mural that we're hoping to add as part of the revitalization of Anza Park. This is a 4-section mural focusing only on the center sections. It was designed by myself and artist Luis Tadeyamaya. He's the art teacher at Wade Carpenter Middle School. And this image has a lot of important symbolism for people that grew up in this community. I think so often when you talk about the border, you hear about the worst things that happen here or the horrible atrocities of the physical line of sex trafficking or drugs or immigration. And so often I think the narrative of these beautiful, vibrant border communities get lost in that translation. And using public art is something that the Border Youth Tennis Exchange and the Santa Cruz County School Superintendent's Office and a lot of artists in the community want to take hold as part of reclaiming our narrative and being able to tell different stories to people that may be visiting us or that may come to gawk at the border, to give them something else to look at and a different narrative from members of our community. So this has been a movement that's been going on for at least a decade in various areas of the community with different artists. Maria Lopez, who's a local artist and resident, created El Rincón de Arte, an initiative to provide dignified living opportunities, especially using Hispanic culture and vibrant colors. Then we have Nogaleria, which is a Ambos Nogales artist ensemble, who created their project and was funded by the U of A Confluence Center. And the purpose of their project was really to create art for residents to be able to take pride in the community. So these are a few of their murals that they've worked on. They had additional murals that have been completed in the time that it's taken us to make this presentation. The Santa Cruz County School Superintendent's Office has also been a great contributor to public art in our community. With the Invest in Our Youth project, they've created summer programs where we teach students all about mural history and different painting techniques, and allow them to design and create their own narrative, and then work in collaboration with professional artists to complete murals throughout the city. This was the most recent one created last summer, was the 1904 courthouse mural that tells a brief narrative history of Amos Nogales and some icons of Crawford Street and Morley Avenue, things that really we cherish as a community. The murals on Morley project, like I mentioned, we came in 2019. It was just an idea. We really had ambitious goals and a lot of desire and collaborative effort from a lot of community artists. These are all various murals supported by different organizations in the city and completed by different artists. This is a few of the mural sites in 2019 prior to any artistic improvement. And these are those same sites now. It's a really exciting to be able to bring family members and friends from other places and other communities and have something to show them, especially after the way that Morley Avenue has suffered after 2019. Murals have also started to appear in our schools. This is one in the high school, and the one on the right is at Little Red Schoolhouse in collaboration with the Choose Love program. There's also some at the Rio Rico High School and San Cayetano, and they're starting to bloom little by little. Hopefully at some point we can have murals in all of our schools. Important part of BITE's investment is murals, is bringing them into the classroom and having students take active roles in every single part of the mural process. So it's not just us pushing them out into the street with a can of paint and hoping for the best. They're really putting their time and effort into learning how to do these skills and how to share their narratives with the community. This is an example from the last summer camp by Jacobo Brian Beltran. And this first image is just a sketch that he did, which we transformed into a line drawing, which became the mural that he actively participated in painting. This summer, we're hoping to see him lead another group of students on his own to create a mural project downtown. As in preparation for the larger mural projects, we ask students to practice, and so we create these mobile murals. And these were statements that the students wanted to represent, but these murals are amazing because they can be taken to other areas in the community, to schools, this is a picture of it at the 1904 courthouse for student exhibitions. They could also be placed in parks. Students of all ages get to participate, and they really get to take a sense of pride in their participation, bringing their family and friends to see the work that they've contributed and the changes that they've made. This is another example of a mobile mural designed by Sue Helen Mendoza, who was at the time an 8th grader at Carpenter Middle School. And she led a group of much younger students to create this. And this is on exhibit at the 1904 courthouse as well. So we've talked a little bit about the beautiful things that art have done for us in the community. And I'd like to bring us back to this image of just really symbolic things that artists in the community, and I hope community members, can resonate with. It's meant as a token of celebration to celebrate our binational heritage, our binational language, and this really unique sense of community that I don't think you can find in many other places. As Renee mentioned, this is part of the Arte del Barrio initiative to provide art and public installations in all of the parks with this collaboration. And in addition to the project that was proposed last meeting with the high school student renovating the basketball courts, this would be a complete revitalization of Anza Park. So the students in the BITE classes would work with us to redo all of these short auxiliary walls, while the professional artists would do the larger mural part. And this is just a one on a very long list of parks in the city that we're hoping to see some sort of artistic improvement in. There's a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity for participation on professional artist scale, community members, and students. This is a little bit hard to read, but it kind of breaks down the budget into the two phases. The Santa Cruz County School Superintendent's Office has offered to match the cost share for phase 2, which with the other 4 murals and the basketball court is several $1,000s. So what the request is a donation of $10,000 of in-kind contributions from the city in forms of repainting and resurfacing the wall so that we can put the mural on it, and then providing lifts for the artist to use and safely access the wall. And then we're requesting $6,750 as a cost share match to the Board of Youth Tennis Exchange to complete phase 1. So between the two phases, BITE will have contributed $14,000, and that's in addition to the $25,000 they spend each year to sustain the arts program that we offer to students free of cost at La Niña Art Studio, and for the tennis program supported by the Board of Youth Tennis Exchange at the De Anza Parks. This is kind of a tentative timeline. Unfortunately, we didn't quite get the approval in time to start exactly on this timeline, but if we could move quickly, we could get this finished as early as the end of the year, and it will have the complete revitalization, both phases, all 4 panels of the mural, and all the auxiliary walls with the student participation. And this is just a reminder that not one of us could have done any part of this single-handedly, and that it takes a village and a group and a support and all of us working together to make these kind of projects possible. So we hope that you keep that in mind when you're making your decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me just get the numbers right. You're asking for 10,000 in kind
In kind,
and then 6,750 match?
yes, as cost match for the artist fees and the materials for the phase 1.
That's it? So you're looking 6,750?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I was able to find in my budget the cost to cover preparing the wall and preparing the court so that it's ready for, surface is ready for painting. So I think the in-kind on that level, our department can take care of.
Okay. Now, but is there a difference between what you're putting in and the 6,750 that they're asking?
The 6,750 is not in-kind, that is the cover materials and artist fees. The 10,000 first initial, that's the in-kind fees that our department can cover.
So you could cover the 10,000, but not the 6,750.
Right. Because
Okay.
that's a cash out
Okay.
that they're requesting.
Okay. Anybody has any questions?
I have a question.
Councilman Bonilla, go ahead.
Ms. Travers? So you're saying that you have an extra $10,000 that you can,
It won't come out to $10,000, but we're looking at different ways to be able to cover that cost and prep the
well,
court and the wall.
how much do you think it'll
Well,
go
we're
down?
using staff, so it's going to be a little less than 10,000. It'll be renting the high-powered pressure washer and things like that to prepare the concrete, and then fixing the seams. I don't know if you noticed in the picture, the seams on the wall need to be repaired before they can start their project.
So the 6,750, that's for artists and what else? And
And materials,
material?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a great project, and I really think if we could afford it, it'll be a good thing for you to go ahead and do. I support it 100%.
Thank you, Councilman Doyle.
I like the idea. But, my question is, were you already looking at putting some money into that same park? Now, is this only one park, or is there going to be a string of parks that are?
We're starting with this park, and we are looking at working closely with Aisa and Evan Corey and the county school office to work on art projects in all the parks.
No.
Okay, but this park we started on with the revitalization of the tennis courts, and then we put in a new playground that's ADA compliant. We're looking at possible ADA bathrooms there as well, and bringing that park up to, because most of the birthday parties are held at that park. So we want to make it a positive environment for the kids.
Well, thank you for bringing us up on that information, because the parks are very needed in the community. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Montiel, please.
Go ahead. Okay. I just have a question for Mr. Machado. I've been approached by a lot of artists in the community about the city funding either in kind or, like, for example, the $6,750. So when we have different artists in the community starting, which is a good thing, starting to request the city, help, how do you suggest as an attorney how we're going to handle that in the future? Because we're kind of setting a precedence. And we're all supportive, all of us. I don't think there's someone that on the dais is not supportive of these murals going up all over the city. But I know that I've been approached, like I said, an artist last week said, I talked to Mayor Maldonado about funding a mural. So, yeah, the question is, legally, do we have to say yes when they ask us?
No, you don't have to say yes at all.
Oh, we could say no too.
No, you can say no.
Yeah.
It's totally with your discretion.
Okay.
But depending on what the project is and the cost and location, et cetera, you have to make the number one assessment of whether it's in the best interest of the city to do so and so on. And that goes to the legality of it.
Yeah.
But once that's decided, then it's really totally up. It's in your discretion as to what you want to sponsor and what you want to support. We don't have, to my knowledge, a policy regarding that. That's always a good idea, to have a policy that we can look at as a guideline, not make it so specific that it's black and white, but as a guideline as to what types of projects you'll support. Then that'll go a long way in you making those decisions, those types of decisions.
I just have a follow-up. Now that we're talking about policies, there's so much art going up in the community, and perhaps we could talk about a policy in place that would protect the art on city properties. And I just wanted to throw that at you. That maybe perhaps I've talked to the city manager about that already. Yeah, so I think you answered the first question. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just follow up on that. I've seen and I've had budgets before where there's an actual beautification budget line item, and then in that you can set parameters as far as maybe individuals come and present what they'd like to do. Council decides and they can, but you have a budget. So the first year you ongoing budget for beautification. And then you can set rules for people to come apply, or you don't need to set the rules. The money's gone when it's gone. But it's just something I've seen quite a few cities do that. It's called a beautification program.
Thank you. Mr. Gradias, Councilman Gradias.
First of all, I want to congratulate BITE. I remember when I was at the Boys and Girls Club is when they initiated this 7 years ago, and it was a cross-border tennis program. The kids enjoyed it. Would send kids over to Mexico to play. They'd come over here, and now it's grown to something like this, which is amazing. Second thing is some of the repairs or stuff that you pointed out are stuff that we have to do anyways. So why not jump on the coattails and kill two birds with one stone, as a saying. So I think we should really look at something like this.
Thank you. Mr. Councilman Boneas.
I only have one question, Mr. Machado or Ms. Travers.
this is a great idea. I totally support this project, but something caught my attention for what Councilwoman Montiel said right now. So, what would happen, Mr. Machado, if someone outside from BITE wants us as a city to commission them for a mural or a project? How are we going to? At what point do we say yes, you know you, and is it a first come first serve, or that's the only issue I'm seeing, because everyone's gonna jump on the bandwagon and say, well, I want my shot. Hey, if you paid for their commission for their project, well, what about me? So what do we do, Mr. Machado?
That's totally up to the council. That's in your discretion. You can decide to budget a certain amount yearly, then have individual requests come to the council and you address them then. You can have a policy created where those types of requests are made at a certain time in a certain manner and then addressed and presented to council in that manner. It's really your discretion, but I think all of you guys know me well enough now that I'm a firm believer in written policies and procedures. So that would be my advice to you. If this is the type of thing that you're interested in, then we should make the effort to prepare a policy and procedures in this regard.
Councilman Bojorquez.
This question is for Mr. Dickey. You talked about a beautification line item on the budget. Do we have one in the city of Nogales?
We don't have one. This is exactly what we're talking about. We could create a budget like that. We could set policies, bring to council, to adopt the policy and how we're going to go forward. At this time, we don't have a budget for this, but this is something today, because this line item, this agenda item does say possible action. You could approve the in-kind and for Mr. Dickey to find the $6,750.
A couple of weeks ago, or a couple of agendas ago, we approved a mural at the same place, Anza Park, at the basketball court. And those matching funds or that funding came out from the ARPA funds, am I right? Or was it a line item specific for that project?
No, I'm not familiar with ARPA funds for that.
No, that project is a senior project, and we were able to allocate the funding from the county on their own. We're not, all we're doing is prepping the court for him. That was his senior project that he proposed. We brought it to council because as I've told you in the past, any art that's going up in the parks, I want to make sure I get your approval for.
I have a question,
Go ahead.
which would be in kind, right? When the city is involved, this question is for Mr. Machado. So that's a good question, because the city's prepping, so that's in kind. You're taking employees out of their regular duties to prep. Okay, so that's in kind too.
Yeah, but we're not paying for the materials or.
No, but you're paying the employee.
Correct, but that's why I'm just clarifying.
Councilman Gradias.
First of all, I would like to know legally if ARPA funds could be used for these types of projects. Second of all, I know we've allocated certain amounts of money to some departments that haven't even been touched and can be reallocated. So maybe that's something we can look at if it's possible.
Well, the answer to the first question on the ARPA funds, I don't know. And that's something I'll have to look at to see if it's permissible to use the ARPA funds in this connection. As far as the where the funding comes from this, if you don't have this budgeted, which you probably don't because we don't have a policy and so on in that, then it would be up to, assuming you want to support this type of thing, then the funding would be something that the city manager administratively could attempt to get from the budget, from the miscellaneous funding or the other types of reallocating something in perhaps that budget. But that would be an administrative function if that's what you decided to do. unless there was a specific fund like ARPA that wasn't included in the budget that would be available. But at this point, like I said, I don't know if we could use that or not.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Doyle.
Yes, to Mr. Machado, how hard would it be to, sorry, Mr. Machado, how hard would it be to kind of look into that ARPA fund and check? Because it seems like a lot of those funds were supposed to be for the community coming out of the COVID era. And one of the things that was always recommended was to be more active physically, in other words, involved in different programs of sports or just whatever, basket hiking, just going out of the park and having a good time. And since we're trying to bring our parks, up to date, why wouldn't those funds be able to be used for that?
I don't know, and that's what I say.
Is it hard?
I never like to, as you know, also, I don't like to give opinions without knowing for sure.
But it's something that can be looked into.
But yeah, I'll look into it. But initially, ARPA funds were made to help communities overcome problems they had as a result of COVID, lost income for businesses. So it had to be COVID related. But as it was enacted, it was a lot broader than that. It was the allowable use was much broader. How much broader? I don't know. And that's what I look at. I don't know if it would cover art projects. That's kind of broad, right? So I don't know. I'd have to, if we can fund it with ARPA, that's an issue I'd have to look at.
Mr. Mayor, just
Go ahead.
currently, I can speak to that a little bit. I do not think that they'll cover beautification, ARPA funds. But saying that, I'll have Joe double check. But right now, I feel pretty strong that they will not.
Councilman Bonilla.
Mr. Machado, would we be starting this project? Well, let me ask this way. Are we going to do the policy first and then go ahead with this project, or?
That's up to you. That's up to the council. Do you want to make this decision absent a policy? It's just an individual request at this time, or wait on the creation of a policy and procedure in a new budget year. That's totally up to this council.
Well, and the reason I ask is probably we're going to end up amending the budget a tad. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but I would like to set the policy first and then go ahead and do this. So
it might not necessarily mean an amendment of a budget by the council. You've budgeted contingency funds that can be used administratively by administrative decision. So it wouldn't require that drastic an action by the council.
Mr. Mayor, again, I would recommend, if this is something council wants to do and take action on tonight, is to go ahead and give direction for the city manager to find the $6,750 and to approve the in-kind up to $10,000.
Go ahead, Mr. Gradias.
Being as that they have set a timeline and we're falling behind, I move to go ahead and do the 10,000 in kind and direct staff to find the 6750 out of a contingency or wherever they think is feasible, and to look towards process to deal with these issues in the future, because I think they will be coming up, to end up with a policy to govern this.
Second.
Any other discussion? I just want to say I agree with all you guys. I think it's a good thing that we could do. We got Mr. Machado and Mr. Dickey. And what we do is, we can't, like, everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid of, having 100 people in line tomorrow morning because we're doing a good faith right here in, pulling money out of the bag. And, in the policy, I think Mr. Machado and Mr. Dickey, take in mind, I understand we want to beautify our city and all that, but I think we got to look at it in stages. Miss Travers, how we got to look, 2, 3 max per year and stuff like that. We can't eat the whole pie one day in the table. You know, we got to take it step by step, and I think the community would really appreciate that we're going forward. But then again, we got to take it step by step. So let's take those things in mind. With that said, you know, call for the vote on this supporting of the 6,500 and having administration look for the funds. I have a first and a second, and no more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, girls, and keep up doing the great job. All right. Next item 6, financial monthly report. Ms. Jean.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. In front of you, you have the hard copy of the January of 2023 financial report. So in January, at the end of January, we should be at about 58.33% of our budget when it comes to revenue and expenses. So first, if you turn to table A, that is our general fund. You will see that our revenue brought in is $20,122,822, which is 73%. And our expenditures are $16,658,511, which is 47%. You'll also see in the same chart for revenues, our shared revenue. And we have brought in $5,273,727, which is 58%. If you move on to table B, that is our local sales tax. In January, we collected $1,503,622. January of 23 compared to January of 22, we have collected 68,314 more than last year. And in total for the year, we have collected $1,435,347 more than last year at this point. If you move on to table C, those are our general fund expenditures per department. We are getting fewer departments that are highlighted, which means it's fewer departments that are over their budget, and they're getting closer and closer to the amount we need to be at. Now, if you move on to table D.
Jean?
Yes.
Just one quick question and clarification, because people are going to notice it.
Sure.
Mayor's office has gone up. And I want to let everybody know I've been moving. And can you just give them a little brief on why my expenditures have gone up?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sure. On Friday, in fact, the mayor and I and the city manager and the mayor's assistant, we all met, and we talked a lot about what has been going on in just the 2 months that he's been in office. He's done a lot of traveling. He's getting Nogales, the name out there, and not just locally. He's going into Mexico and talking to governors and presidents, and he showed us pictures, and he's going up to Phoenix. And in fact, he was in Phoenix yesterday for another trip. Mr. Maldonado is getting our name out there in different ways than it's been in the past. He's still way below budget, so don't worry. But he has really made a point to get us, I'd say, on the map. We're already on the map, but he's helping make it even better. We had a really good conversation on Friday about it. And like I told him, I said, as your finance director, I'm here for you. So, he's like, door's always open. So I came and I just had a few questions, cleared it up, and I think it's wonderful what he's doing for everybody. And I know that a few of the council members are getting ready to go to Washington in March. And I think that's wonderful too, to get everybody back out there after COVID and everything shutting down. So that's one of the reasons his is going up.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's all for the community. That's what I'm trying to do. And hopefully everybody understands that, I want to do big things. It takes time, but getting our participation in different things will bring a lot of good things to the city. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on Table C for general fund? Okay, then we'll move on to Table D. Table D is our HERF and our overweight funds. Our revenue for HERF is $1,381,493, which is 50%. And our overweight fees for revenue is $182,344, which is 73%. And the expenditures for HERF are $2,230,906, which is 43% of the budget. And for overweight fees, it's $2,139,070, which is 82% of the expenditures budget. Moving on to Table E, that's our sewer. For sewer, we have brought in $1,549,899, which is 42% of our budget. And we have spent $1,177,888, which is 53% of the expenditure budget. For water, it's Table F. We have brought in $2,138,763, which is 57%. And we have expended out $3,196,564, which is 48% of expenditures. And the final table is Table G. We have brought in for sanitation $1,722,227, which is 57%. And we have expended out $1,657,451, which is 52%. Are there any other questions on those tables?
Just to clarify, on Table F, so we had negative 1,057,801, correct? More expenditures than revenues.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Did you ask if we have questions?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I do, a couple of them. I had one. What do you do with the bed tax? I know it's increasing. The month of January, we had, 42,000 coming in. What are things that you are using
the bed tax
for?
So this year, there was no guidance as to what in particular the bed tax should go towards. So it has just gone into the general fund as revenue to be used however the council sees fit.
The taxpayers didn't specify what the bed tax would be used for?
No, it's city by city. They can choose.
That's what I mean, our taxpayers.
No.
They didn't specify?
No, they did not.
It just goes to a general fund?
It goes to general fund to be used however the council sees fit.
Okay, I've never asked that question, so I was wondering. Another one was, how's the audit going?
The audit is almost completed. We have just submitted the last of our information that they have asked of the city. And I believe that the housing has also submitted the last of their information also.
I know in the last, we were late in the last audit. And that was noted in the evaluation. Is it going to be late this time around?
We are only about 30 days late. And a lot of it is due to the change of the GASB 86 that had to be completed. And the auditors were quite aware of what we were doing. We had quite a few different meetings with them, including in December when they came down. So they know.
But yeah, well, they noted it. I mean, of course they know. They noted it.
But we
So I'm
are
bringing it
doing
up
much.
to you if it's going to be late again.
It is late. Last year it was completed the end of April. We'll be done before then. And the year before that, it was completed the end of June. So every year gets better.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on those tables?
Anybody else? Go ahead, continue, G.
Okay. And then the last bit you have is the water and sewer and miscellaneous reports. So we currently have 6,145 active utility accounts. We have 417 delinquent accounts that are on contracts. The total of those contracts is $117,671.26. We also have 140 delinquent accounts that are just the sewer accounts that are in the Valle Verde, Chula Vista area. Those total $309,983.31. And then that's the end of that part. For the delinquent accounts in Valle Verde, I just want to let the council know that we have started going to court with some of these much larger accounts, not just the commercial accounts that we've already tackled a few. We actually have started going to court with some of the individuals. That all kind of started taking place this past couple weeks. So we should start to see that number go down. We did not have any employee payouts for February. And for the fuel report through January, we have spent $326,554.32. That is $96,055.12 higher than it was as of January of last year. Our fuel costs are still high. Our departments are getting better, but our fuel costs are still high. Any questions?
Mr. Gurarias, go ahead.
In reference to the Valle Verde sewer delinquent accounts, maybe it's a legal question. Is there any way that we can either put a lien on the property or an assessment? Does that have to go to vote? How can we get to that end? Because obviously it's a long, lengthy process. It's taking forever. I don't know what the courts are going to rule, but maybe we can be proactive on this. It's a lot of money out there.
We're doing that now, Councilman. We're in the process of, we've got pending a lot of litigation on the rears. We are putting liens on property. This has been something that's been on the books for a long time. It just never was utilized. But yeah, we're doing it now.
And Ms. Jean, I would like to contribute to saving a tree by starting with a limb. I don't need hard copies. I'll use my digital copies.
Okay. Yes, if anybody else would just prefer their digital copy next month, just let me know and we can save a tree.
Thank you. Ms. Montiel?
Can you give us an update? I've asked the city manager, and I think you said yes on the unfunded liability. I've been asked by a lot of people in the public how we're doing with that.
Oh, sure, with the trust one, the 115 trust?
Yeah, the one.
In fact, I just spoke with the company that has our fund this afternoon, PFM, and they will be at the April 5th meeting to do the quarterly report. Looking at the numbers, we're doing much better than we were from the first time they presented. It was just not quite 15 million. When I looked at the numbers today, we were over 16 million. So we're coming back to where we're supposed to be. But they will be here. They'll be on the screen next month because they're not in state.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Bonilla?
Ms. Molman, can you, for the next meeting, give us a comparison on how, where we invested our funds versus PSPRS, please? And see how they're doing, because we were told that it was a safer, a lot slower, but I'd like to see a comparison on how they are doing with their investments.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other question?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Next item, number 7, discussion items. Number 1, update on Meadow Hills issues, water on Country Club Drive. I put this on the agenda, and thank you, Marta, for coming down. I want to thank Councilwoman Montiel. I don't know how she got a hold of it, but apparently what they worked, and if Guerra or Bárcenas want to correct me, there's a drain underneath the road that apparently was clogged, and they worked on it. Ms. Montiel got me a picture of the what you call it, draft or where it was, and apparently that's the way they found it. They worked on unclogging it, and hopefully they'll keep on doing it on a more periodical basis. We did cancel the meeting afterwards because they had already found the solution before they came. But they are going to continue to work on that. Mr. Guerra, Mr. Bárcenas, any other, Mr. Kissinger, any other comments on what they did and what's soon to come, or any promises that it won't get clogged again?
So they were even out there last Friday, Mr. Mayor, in the morning, working on some of the culverts that go underneath that area. When we say they, we're talking about ADOT. They were out there, and we're in communications with ADOT. And they are going to continue to look at the situation and do whatever they possibly can do to ensure that we don't have any water crossing over the road on Country Club.
Thank you. So basically, hopefully this fixed the problem, and we won't have that issue again, because we were all caught by surprise, and then the weather didn't help, but hopefully, it's a solution for forever, and we continue. But ADOT has always been good responding to us, and they work with us. So if we do have any other issues, by no means bring them up. Bring them up. You guys drive by there on a daily basis. We don't. But let us know, and however we could help you. I know right now we're looking at the lighting there because it's very dark. That's another issue, right, John? Yeah. But that's something we're looking into, because I know they have problems with the posts on the bottom and some corrosion and stuff like that. So we're going to look at alternative lighting or something like that. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, Council? Thank you. Discussion item number 2, discussion, direction, and possible action appointing event committees. I also put this on the purpose of this is, like I've said before, trying to be open and transparent with everybody, making people take charge of our days, festivals, and all that. So I propose that we name 2 committees who work with the city staff and prepare of the city events, and that we plan to do plans and make a budget. I propose that the following committees, chairperson, that will be from the council, with a discretion of, 4 members, with the respect of the committees. Obviously, we got to keep in mind the ordinance of not having more than 3 council people at the same time. And got to follow all protocols. With this said, I would like to suggest that Councilwoman Lisa Montiel will be the chairperson of the committee for the following events: 4th of July, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and Christmas. And then Councilwoman Esther Melendez Lopez would be the chairperson for the committee for the following events: 5 de Mayo, Fiestas Patrias, 16 de Septiembre, Días los Muertos. With this, do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussions? Nope. Thank you. We all said, all in favor? All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Discussion item number 3, discussion of appointment of Mayor Maldonado to the Executive Board of Southeast Arizona Government Organization, which is SEGO. I put this on the agenda just to let you know, like I've said before, I've been going out, so I've been promoted or elected to the executive board of SEGO, which is Southeastern Arizona Government Organization, which is basically they support us, they help us. There's a way they do their commitments by it's Graham County, Cochise, Greenlee, Graham, Cochise,
Greenlee and Grams.
Greenlee, Graham, Santa Cruz, but there's 4, and Cochise.
Santa Cruz, Greenlee, Gram.
Okay, Greenlee, Santa Cruz.
Mr. Mayor, it's Cochise County, Santa Cruz County, Greenlee County, Graham County.
That's what I said, but I said
Yes, sir.
Cochise third.
That's what you said.
Good job. So Greenlee, Graham, Cochise, and Santa Cruz. Okay. And so they alternate. The past mayor had to share, and and it goes, chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. The way the rotation goes, I'll be hosting the treasurer, even though I will not be doing any accounting or anything. That's just the way they name them. And I'll be the treasurer and representative for Santa Cruz County. And I just wanted to let you guys know that that's the way I'm being involved in trying to get our Nogales to get more support from SEGO. And with that said, also, I know SEGO, through SEGO this year, we come out with some funds for Santa Cruz County where, again, they do it by sections and they rotate them. And this year it's 100, how much is it, John?
The CDBG funds, the rotation this year is a little over $400,000, and we'll have a public meeting on that on April 8th.
Yes, and that's March 8th.
March 8th.
And that it's for one project, correct?
Correct.
They don't like to split it, so it's over $480,000, which I think would be good for the city. Any questions? Next in order, number 8, orders. Consideration and possible action on order 2023-03-011. An order of the Council of City of Nogales, Arizona, approving amendment number 1 in the amount of $1,968.73 to the intergovernmental agreement IGA-JPA 22-0008574-1 with the Arizona Department of Transportation, ADOT, for the multi-use pathway from Morley Avenue to Roy Road, SR 82. Second. Any discussion? Okay, go ahead.
Is this going to include or maybe taking into account the lighting in that area?
Anybody, Mr. Juan?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, everybody, members of the council. No, I think the project includes only the pathway, no lighting, no landscape. It's just a simple pathway for bicyclists and pedestrians. If budget permits, we might include lighting, but the scope of work is just simple pathway. At this point, we can find, we can look for further other fundings later on if there is no funding available. But the total project cost is supposed will be 1.4 million. So again, because everything is very expensive now, I don't know if we'll be. I'm hoping that will be enough, but we'll see.
Mr. Guerra, when do you anticipate starting this project?
The design will be done this year, and hopefully the construction will start in next fiscal year, in 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Montiel?
Mr. Guerra, you're going to make a lot of people happy along that way, especially us runners that use that
Thank
that
you. Just
road
to
there,
let you know,
and the cyclist.
we'll face some challenges because the right of way is not all very open in some places. Like at Lourdes School is very restricted there, but we'll brainstorm about what to do there.
I'm sure you can. I love that. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Guerra, I know I've mentioned a lot to Ms. Travers. I'm for looking for solar lighting. Solar lighting is very inexpensive and it's very favorable without having to put any electrical ground. I think that's a good thought to take home and think about maybe some solar lighting around that area.
I will see if that is possible to be included as part of the project. By the way, I have a proposal to install solar lights at White Park to go into Home Depot. And I have a proposal for 22 street lights, including the post, for $31,000. So I guess we can spend something like that to light in that area with solar street lights.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bonilla?
Mr. Guerra, right now, since you're mentioning all these solar lighting and all that, will you be including a study also on what it's going to cost to maintain these solar lights? I mean, because it is solar energy is real cheap, but what is expensive is always the maintenance and whatnot. So that's really the fine print always on those. And again, I think that solar energy is great, but the little fine,
of course, yes,
on there. Okay, so if you can include that on there, please.
Of course.
What's going to cost down the road?
I will find out. I guess at this point, I know that the life of the battery is about 5 years warranty. So if we can think about that, at least the battery will die every 5 years, I think will be a good investment.
Yes. Mr. Bojorquez.
Mr. Guerra, you mentioned White Park. Is that pathway, that sidewalk, does that belong to the city or?
We have been involved with the maintenance of the road or crack sealing. But I guess there is a private owner who takes care of the cleaning. So we need to discuss that item and take it before obviously putting lights there. If we accept it as part of a city network, my understanding is that in many years ago, there was federal funds used for the construction of that area intended to improve the economic development. But was a private and public partnership. But the contractor, the owners at that time didn't dedicate the city to for maintenance because they didn't fix the road for the deficiencies at that time. At this time, the road requires maintenance and it's totally dark. It will be a good subject to discuss.
Mayor, I have another question for Mr. Guerra. Is it my understanding that once we do any type of maintenance work on a private road, isn't it automatically dedicated to the city?
By the way, not necessarily.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the pushbacks I've had on trying to fix some private roads.
No,
I've been
I've
been told by legal and city managers that once we do any work, that it becomes automatically a city issue or city property. So, which one is it?
No, it's not. And on top of that, work on private roads is illegal.
So is the White Park a private road?
No, it's not.
It does belong to the city?
It belongs to the city. It's a long, complicated history on that development, but in a nutshell, it belongs to us.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Guerra. Well said. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. That's an aye for me too. Going to number 9, ordinance. Consideration and possible action of ordinance, reconsideration of ordinance number 02023-01-001. Second reading of ordinance 2023-01-001 of the city of Nogales, amending ordinance number 20X, adopting June 27, 1889, by amending the official zoning map by rezoning partial of property in the city from single-family residential 18 SFR 18 to multifamily residential MFR on Santa Cruz County Assessor's Parcel number 102-03-010A. With this, before anything, I would like to give the opportunity to Mr. Eugene Goldsmith to come present. Huh?
You can have the discussion first, then a motion. It's a motion.
Good evening. For those of you who I haven't met before, I'm Gene Goldsmith, and I'm an attorney from Tucson, and I'm here tonight representing Los Adobes LLC and also Alejandro and Olga Barcenas regarding this rezoning request. And I want to give a short overview, just talk a little bit about the law that's applicable and then the facts that I think are applicable to this rezoning request. So here we have a rezoning where a complete application was presented, proper notices were given with no written objections. It conforms with the general plan, as I will discuss in a little bit. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved unanimously. The mayor and council approved in the first reading, and there is no basis to deny this application. And I do want to talk about rezoning in general. It's not an arbitrary process. There are U.S. constitutional guarantees, and I want to discuss those a little bit before discussing the facts. And to put it in context, a long time ago, the U.S. Congress passed 42 U.S.C.A. Section 1983. We generally just refer to as Section 1983, that gives private persons the right to bring civil actions to enforce their constitutional rights. And they can bring those actions against governmental entities and individual government officials. And that's not a threat. I'm just talking about what the law provides. And that law and that statute, 1983, has been applied in many rezoning cases and has been litigated in many rezoning cases. And obviously, the U.S. Constitution trumps everything else. Local law, state law, it is the rights guaranteed to all U.S. citizens. And there are two constitutional mandates that are at issue in a rezoning like this. One is equal protection under the 14th Amendment, which I will discuss. And the other is the taking clause under the 5th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Now, with equal protection, classes of persons are protected in that they have to be treated the same. And the U.S. Supreme Court has recognized the class of one. In other words, it can apply to an individual. It doesn't have to be a whole large group. And actually, the case where they recognized that was a zoning case, a rezoning case, the Village of Willowbrook case. And the governmental entity and the government officials cannot treat a person differently than others, similarly situated, without a rational basis. And certainly, as was the case in that case, personal animosity is not a rational basis. Being a city employee is not a rational basis. Just being uncomfortable with that person in general is not a rational basis. There's also the taking clause under the 5th Amendment. And basically, the concept is what's sometimes referred to as reverse condemnation. That even if the governmental entity is not occupying the property and taking over, if it regulates it to a point where it loses its financial value, that can be considered a taking. And again, the US Supreme Court has looked at that, and they look at economic impact, interference with investment-backed expectations, and the character of the government action. So here we have a request by an entity owned by a city employee to rezone 4.37 acres from single-family to multifamily residential and build 14 units. I mean, a relatively small project. And it went through the review process. Mr. Barsonis's ownership interest was disclosed. He signed the application. There's an email to staff informing them of his participation in the process. He kept out of the process. It was recommended by Planning and Zoning, as I mentioned before, approved 5-0, no written objections. The staff summary to the council talks about that this single-family parcel is located adjacent to a multifamily residential property, a much larger property right on Frank Reed Road, and it's consistent with the zone change statements within the code, and it's consistent with the general plan. So this project is really typical infill, and it's just consistent with what's been going on. This, as far as housing goes, certainly the city wants diversity of housing types, affordable to all income groups. This is not low-income housing, but it's affordable housing. And again, it's right next door to a large multifamily condominium project. And I drove down the street today because I was curious what this area looked like on my way over here. And I could see all kinds of uses in the area, and this seemed very consistent with the uses that are already in the area. And there have also been, besides the fact the multifamily is right next door, there have been recent approvals by the city council of very similar requests, which again goes back to what I was talking about with equal protection. And I'm going to name just a couple examples. I don't want to bore everybody, but there was in 2020, there was ordinance number 2020-09-006. That was the rezoning of 7.14 acres near Mariposa Ranch Road, very, very close to this, for the CF Group Developers LLC. And it was changed from single family to multifamily. This is apples to apples. It's in the same neighborhood, and it's the same kind of approval. Then also very close to this location, in 2018, there was ordinance number 2018-06-003 for 7659 Property LLC. This was a larger rezoning. This was 55 acres. And it actually changed to even a wider use. It changed what was partially single family and partially multifamily to light industrial. So besides the fact that that type of use was approved in the same community, it also eliminated some of the multifamily use property that's in the very adjacent community. And then there was ordinance number in 2021-007-006, which was for the Martha R. Vidal Survivors Trust. Now, this was in Meadow Hills. It wasn't exactly there, but not far away. And again, it was a change from single family to multifamily, and it was approved by the city. Also, I know there are several apartment complexes in the area and very close by. And I'm sure there are other approvals that are similar. So with that, again, if we look at an apples and apples comparison, this is the same type of rezoning that's been approved by the city council on numerous occasions. It's also consistent with the general plan. And if you look at the land use element of the general plan, it's to provide the mix of compact land uses necessary to achieve the desired quality of life and long-term sustainability of the city. Certainly having a townhouse complex falls within that definition. And it also under goal 6, under that same section of the plan, there is a goal to make sure that there's housing types that are affordable to all income ranges and that attract commuters to live in Nogales closer to work, which certainly this project would do. And if you also look at the housing element of the general plan, there are similar type statements. The city defines housing affordability to include all income ranges, providing a higher quality and diversity of housing types for renters and owners of all income ranges, assists the city in supporting an equitable housing strategy. This type of development falls right within that definition. We have vacant property, it's infill within the city. The city certainly needs housing. No one in the affected area provided a written objection as the section 1205 would require. And, you know, I am sure it's very uncomfortable for a city employee to have an attorney here speaking to city council. But this is a large investment for him and the family. And I think under the circumstances, most of us would do the same thing. And I would urge the council to approve this rezoning request. And if anyone has any questions for me, I'm happy to address it. Yes, Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Doe,
Yes, thank you.
turn on the mic, please.
You know, I always admired your work. You always bailed us out in a lot of times and helped Mr. Machado back when I was mayor. But I hate to inform you that a lot of the information you gave isn't correct. It's not factual. And, you know, the way they say, the lie will only last as long as the truth arrives. And the truth is here. With these people that are present, they didn't get the proper notices so that they could voice their opinions during the process. That's, and that's, here you see it where they say that in page 45, you know, that it says that according to the procedure, staff processed this request to meet all notification procedures, and posting deadlines, and it has their neighborhood letter sent 9/15/2022. But yet, none of the residents over there that are within the 300 feet received a notice through the mail. Now, that's very strange, because they're the witnesses to speak against that they were notified. And that's very important in the process of zoning, that the people that live within 300 feet have the opportunity to voice their concerns and opinions. And if they're left out of the process, then something's wrong. You can't leave those people out. That's, and I can go, you know, to page also 53 within our, the information they gave us, you know, and that's what we base on. We base on the information they give us.
Can I address that?
Sure, go ahead.
So planning and zoning in their paperwork says they provided the notifications. I would just say as a lawyer, I mean, I wasn't there, I didn't mail the letters, I don't live in those homes. But as a lawyer, I could tell you that there's a presumption under the law that a mailed letter reached its destination. And that's a strong presumption. I've litigated cases where someone's claiming I didn't, and I'm not calling anyone anything, I'm just where people have claimed I didn't get the letter, and the courts reject that because there is the presumption that if it's mailed, it was received. So I wasn't a participant in the process, but I know that's how it works in our legal system.
Okay, I'll give you that. That's but yet they didn't receive it. And when you get all the people in that area that live within that distance, and none of them received a letter, a notification by mail. Now, how is that? Did it get intercepted along the way? I don't know. Maybe they need to do an investigation where the mail starts and where it ends. When they pass it on to the, you know, I can see the Postal Service misdeliver 1 or 2 letters. But that mail, even if it was made, never got to its destination. And apparently it got intercepted somewhere along the way. And it's, I guess, maybe a city manager's job to find out where or why, if it's possible. But that's only one of the things, Mr.
Could I make one other point, though?
Go ahead.
By the way, I appreciate your kind words about my past representation of the city.
No.
And I will.
And I know you're doing your due diligence. I mean,
And I will say that regardless, the legal analysis I just gave you, I stand behind as to what's proper to consider in a rezoning request and the rights of the person who's requesting the rezoning. So with that, I can't address circumstances where I wasn't a participant, but I can tell you what the law is.
okay. Now, you gave us some more information that was erroneous right now. Are you trying to make us believe that those are the facts? Or is that what they fed you? Is that, in other words, what it says here? And again, I'll go with the conformance with development standard codes, which they based on their findings, why they thought that it should be approved, and you read some of those. But the basis of it is erroneous because it's all based on the multifamily residential area that's supposed to exist over there, and it doesn't. That's where they undermined you by not giving you the correct information. And I'll show you right here that that's how they based their decision, and that's how they approached the planning and zoning commissioners board, and they gave them the wrong information. Granted, it's not their fault that they're receiving this information that's erroneous. Well, they think everything's on the up and okay. And apparently it wasn't. They got also fed the same information you did. And you're basing that on not facts, actually deception. Now that's the problem here. And this is the proof right here because it goes from one thing to another.
Well, let me just say one thing. I drove there today, and I saw the condominium project that was right next door to it. And regardless, it is the character of the neighborhood that you can see the apartments, you can see the multifamily use, you can
Wait.
let me
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
You can see the commercial uses as you're driving up. And by the way, if you drive just a little past,
No, we're talking about a specific area.
yeah, but just immediately past it, there's even warehouses. Just
on the other side of okay.
Yeah, but just on the other side. So, and I think planning and zoning has a good sense of what exists in the city and what kind of uses exist in the city. And just driving down the street, you see the whole variety of uses.
Again, if they would have received the factual information, the correct information, now that would have made. Now and then I'd say, well, okay, the facts are the facts. But when the information they received was based on misleading, deception, and not the facts, then where does that leave everyone? We're here in this process, and we're also being, we're the last line of defense for the people that wanted to voice their opinions. And again, let me go, and we'll go to page 60. And we'll look at what it says. It's based on recommendations. Staff is recommending approval of this zone change based on the following criteria being met. Multifamily residential is encouraged within existing neighborhoods and is practical, conforms to the statements of rezoning, residential development, multifamily demonstrated need and zoning boundaries as defined by the Development Standards Code. Okay, so they're basing on the standard codes that supposedly are supposed to be agreeable to the information they gave. Okay, but we'll get to the issue at hand that is a fact. And again, if you're there on page 60, you go to page 55, right? A few pages before. And again, it's all based on what they gave us. And it's not very well. Okay, on page 55, it states, conformance with development standard codes, residential zoning. Multifamily zoning may be granted if it adjoins or abuts existing multifamily zoning.
Mr. Doe, what page are you reading? My 55?
I'm not finding the page either. I have to.
Well, it's right here with the information that we were given, right? It's
but
the agenda.
You got the wrong page then.
Well, okay. Anyway, are we on now on that page? And then it talks about how zoning boundaries should follow existing physical
Page 56.
rivers, washes, and demarcated physical terrain. Street and road frontage zoning should be similar or alike for opposite sides of the streets or roads. And that's why they put that there, because they're saying that those townhouses that are there on Placita Germán Rivas, right across from the property that wants to have the zoning change, they're saying that, hey, we already have multifamily zoning on the opposite side of the street. So this goes along with that. But that's a lie. It's not zoned multifamily, sir. I went to the courthouse with the assessor's office. There is no multiple family zoning in that area. It's all single family residence.
Well, I disagree that that's what's sitting there on the street. I mean, but
okay,
and I think I think that the zone.
Excuse me, I don't want to mislead anyone, but I've got some paperwork here, and as a matter of fact, I'll pass one that they can start with the mayor, and you can look at some of the homes on Placita Rivas and pass it down, and you can look at it, Mr. Bonillas, and it states right there two of the addresses in Placita, and it'll say, it says, good afternoon, Mr. Doyle, as requested. I have attached both property profile summaries which state they are townhomes and are classified under single-family residence. That's for those townhouses that we're talking about. And again, I gave them two addresses, and they looked up the information, and that are right there in that placita, and they said, are you sure? And I said, Mr. Doyle, I said, we don't have anything zoned in that area, multifamily residence. It's all single-family residence. So there, that basis is shot. This was fed to the Board of Commissioners, and that's why I agreed, because nobody did their homework. Nobody did anybody, as a matter of fact, those letters, I would have thought somebody in the city would have gone and knocked on some doors, seeing that it's such an important issue, to make sure the residents got those letters delivered, but nobody follows up. And that's another problem. Everything can be taken care of if people are doing their due diligence. Again, I don't know why the Board of Commissioners didn't do their due diligence. They just swallowed the whole banana, and they thought, oh, we're telling the truth. Now, one person that knew the truth here, and I'm sure he read the report, is the owner, Mr. Bárcenas, which is our Public Works Director. Now, if he read and he knew those facts were not truthful, why didn't he say, wait a minute, why don't we, wait, that's not so, that's not multifamily.
Okay,
it's fine to put an application, but
I want to address that for a moment.
Okay.
Okay, an objection I often make in court when someone says what somebody else is thinking is that's called mind reading.
Oh, okay.
And no, let me finish.
All right, go ahead.
Finish. And saying somebody, I know somebody lied and I know somebody knew this, that's really inappropriate because you don't know that and that's not true. And all you got to do is look at what's next door. It's attached housing. It's multifamily. That's what it is. And I don't know what let me finish. I don't know what paperwork errors may or may not have been made historically, but that is what is sitting there. And what is being sought is much less intensive, much smaller. And again, if you look at the general plan, it's to have diversity, not all of one. And I think that's what's being sought here. And it is what the community needs, and it would be beneficial for the community.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Goldstein, the purpose of you coming up is to give us information on what you have as your information for the rezoning. Mr. Doyle, thank you for bringing up your points. Does anybody else have another comment? Give me 1 second.
Mayor and council, in front of you, you have a little packet where the timeline of all the documents that Adobe has filed previous to the lead up. Mr. Goldstein, maybe you weren't aware. Goldsmith, I'm sorry.
not sensitive about it.
It's Goldsmith, I'm sorry. I was not able to attend that meeting. I was in the hospital with a very bad migraine. And so I looked at the replay on YouTube the next day, and I was very uncomfortable with questioning the integrity of some of our directors. So I immediately, before I can make accusations or stoking up the fire, I asked Mr. Dickey to give me all the documents. It's because it was said that there was no transparency, that it was done, a backdoor deal and stuff like that. So I went and then got all the documents leading to this issue, and I don't see. I mean, I'm sure you have these documents already. Since the beginning, since August, we have emails referring to Mr. Barcenas. There's a form here where it actually asks who is owner of Los Adobes, and it's signed by Mr. Barcenas saying that he is the owner.
Correct.
I have the minutes here from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I have the results here and what directions they took. I understand because I've heard Councilman Doyle is hunkering down on that they weren't informed, that they never received the letter. And I don't know because I'm talking to my constituents and they told me that they never received anything. But with that said, they came on the next meeting and they voiced their opinion, their concerns. So to me, at that point, because we didn't take any decision back then, they had an opportunity to voice their opinion, regardless if they received the letter or not. That's kind of at this point irrelevant because they did have their turn to or their opportunity to voice their opinion. I understand some of them don't like it, some don't care, but for the most part, they have concerns. I can't. I don't see what relevancy if these townhouses are classified in that, Mr. Goldsmith.
Yes.
You just stated that before on Frank Reed. Before that, there's some other multifamily on the same street, regardless, right? So, personally, I would, as a council member, I would like to apologize to your client because I don't see anything here that says that backdoor deals were done. I've had 3 weeks to dive into this. Yes, there is concerns from certain people that call me, but I cannot, at this moment, I cannot prove it. I don't have anything tangible to say, well, this is true or not. I can only say that we have a housing crisis in Nogales, and we need to be more diverse, and we need to be able to approve this today. I understand that there are people that are against it, but I have to take a look at the bigger picture because I understand you have all these documents, which I have, I imagine, right? So I don't see anything that was done illegally. I think it was the letter of the law was followed. I think it was approved by Mr. Machado. But again, when I saw this, because I was unable to attend that meeting, I was in the hospital with a migraine. I immediately requested these documents, which any good councilman should do. We have access to all the paperwork, And I reviewed them, and I've been asking a lot of questions. And I understand that some of these constituents have certain worries or concerns, but I cannot at this moment, I don't have any proof, of their concerns, So all I can see is documents, and documents say that everything was done correctly.
If I might add just one thing, there's also an email from Mr. Paz dated August 30th, 2022, where he says this parcel is owned by Mr. Alejandro Barcenas, who will not provide any comments due to a conflict of interest.
Excuse me. We asked Mr. Paz right here on the meeting, who the owner of who was, I guess, the LLC, but then Councilman Montiel asked who the owner of LLC was.
Mr. Bonilla still has the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Bonilla.
Yes, I just to finish what I'm saying, statement Councilman Doyle said that the lie only lasts until the truth arrives. The truth that we have is the documents. I understand there are people here tonight that are concerned, that don't want this, but in good conscience, I have to look at the documentation. I had to go back and do my homework. I had to ask a lot of uncomfortable questions, and I got them. I got all my documents, and this is where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you, Mr. Bonilla. Mr. Gradias.
I want to clarify a few points so we can move forward with this. First of all, a single-family residence is a fully detached building, so whether they're classified by the assessors as a single family or not does not matter legally. A townhouse is a multifamily residence. Second of all, notification not only is done by mail, but through public meetings, which were posted on the website and legally held and open to the public, so you have notification. Couple other points. Reasons people enter into an LLC is for legal liability and tax protection, not to conceal ownership, because the info is available on the Corporate Commission website with a simple query. Conflict of interest, state law only requires, and city charter only requires disclosure of any possible conflict of interest. In this case, there's none, but yet disclosure was made in furtherance of it. City charter for the City of Nogales establishes the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Board of Adjustments, which are appointed by mayor and council. It is their due diligence to review, provide recommendations, and identify conflict. I strongly believe we have highly qualified principals individuals as our directors and board members. What message does it send if we question their integrity? Regarding the best interest of the city, the need for multifamily units in the city of Nogales. Last month, Mayor Maldonado, Councilwoman Montiel, and myself attended a housing meeting with Jeff Olivet, the executive director of the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, where it was highly reiterated for the need of housing, and not just housing, but multifamily housing within the city of Nogales. Again, it was discussed in our earlier housing meeting today. So the need is there, so it is in the best interest of the city. Our decision should be made on merit if all steps are done properly and not prejudicial on who the owner of the property is. If we do it on that, then we're opening ourselves to civil liability. If we vote based on personal beliefs, then we are doing disservice not just to our employees, but to our constituents. So I recommend that we approve this issue going forward.
Well, I would like to, since everybody's making warnings, the facts are here. Somebody with a clear mind, especially a legal mind, might find everything that's been said so far in favor differently. There's some residents that would like to go to the State Attorney General office and find out how to go over all this information and get an opinion from them. Now, they have that right. And the thing is that there's a lot of flaws. And because of those flaws, because of those misleadings, that's why the Board of Commissioners voted on it, and now we're the last line of defense, and it's up to us to do what's right. We're the ones that represent the people, and it's nothing against Mr. Bárcenas personally, but because he is the director of Public Works, he should have known better. That's what I was getting to.
Mr. Doyle.
Regular person.
Mr. Doyle.
Real quick.
We got to comment on the item. We cannot comment on civilians.
Okay.
Please.
That's fine. But the only thing we're talking about
We gotta go by the rules of the laws.
Mayor,
Can I just say,
Sir.
I know the city council is going to discuss this item. Are there any more questions for me?
no, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your information.
With that, I move to approve this motion.
Ms. Montiel had a. Go ahead, Ms. Montiel.
Thank you, Mr. Goldsmith. First of all, I hope in the future that every person that has an issue at hand has the opportunity to bring their attorneys, and that the city of Nogales allows attorneys to come up and have a discussion with the council members. Point number 2, we are being asked to approve or disapprove of the zoning. And it's a tough situation because, like Mr. Who was allowed to come and speak on behalf of the owner of the LLC, that we can get civilly sued. For me, I take that very serious. Any of you out there would take that serious. We're not, we're afraid of attorneys. And I've thought about this for a long time. And of course, when you are Mr. Goldsmith by no means threatened a lawsuit, but he did say, and he mentioned it, it's on record. And I take that very serious. And I have taken that serious. So I have a question to our attorney, not Mr. The owner of the LLC attorney. I have a question for our city attorney who protects the interests of the city of Nogales, and including council and mayor. What are the factors that the council must consider in making this decision, Mr. Machado? Thank you.
The principal factor that you need to consider is the official record that you have before you. We've talked about the people have said nobody received this and so on, but there's no evidence of that. The only evidence that you have before you is the official record that the city maintains, from the planning and zoning to the commission and up to here. If this ever gets to court, that's what's going to be presented, and that's what's evidence in court. So you have to base whether or not the procedure was followed, whether or not it was done improperly, whether or not notices were sent and so on. That is the official record that's going to be presented. That's what you have to base yourself on.
Question. Do you agree with Mr. Goldsmith about being sued civilly as a council member?
Let me state it this way. There is always that possibility. And in this case, there is the very possibility that that will occur.
Follow-up question. What do you recommend as the attorney of the city of Nogales?
Okay. The decision is of course yours, and it's not a legal decision to in terms of the recommending or so on.
No, I guess. Well,
I guess based on the record. Okay. Based on the record, and we've done, because this has been an issue, and it's been twice before, I went through great pains to look at the record. I went personally and got it. I went personally and talked to the director. I looked at all the file. I looked at the notices that had been given out, the records and so on. And in my opinion, everything is done properly and legally.
My question to you is, Again,
No.
we,
Mr. Doyle, hold on till Ms. Montiel is finished, please.
oh, I'm sorry.
Please still.
No, that's okay.
Thank you.
I just, like I said again, this is a very difficult decision to make because we can civilly be sued. So I'm taking this very serious. So, Mr. Machado, do you think, in your opinion, legal opinion, that every person, every resident, every person that has come to the board, to the city, and asked for these rezonings to be changed, have they been given the same opportunity? I know that you weren't an attorney the last few years, but you have been here. You have a lot of institutional knowledge.
I can tell you that on those that I have been here and have addressed, yes, I believe everybody has been treated fairly and equitably, and I am not aware of any favoritism given, and certainly I'm not aware of any favoritism or illegally done in connection, any illegal matter done in connection with this application.
So there's been a equal playing field?
Pardon me?
A playing field? It's been fair for everyone, you know?
Yes, I
Okay,
believe that.
that's
Yes,
good.
I do.
Okay. I would like to make a recommendation. Because it's a very difficult situation, I would like to get an opinion from the Attorney General, a further opinion. What do you think, Mr. Machado?
Number one, I don't think that the Attorney General will give an opinion and weigh in on this because this is purely a city matter. And this is clearly and definitely the function of the city attorney to do that. They won't do it. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and just to follow up,
But
like I said, I'm not an attorney, but I wanted to ask you, not so much making a decision for the council, but if all the Ts were crossed and the Is were dotted, would the Attorney General see that all that was followed?
No, they won't. They won't.
Okay,
issue,
that's
they
all.
won't issue an
Okay.
opinion. I can honestly tell you that.
No, that's
they,
I
won't
trust
get
you.
involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Mr. Machado, by the same token, can the residents of that area sue the board for voting against?
Absolutely. If there is somebody who has evidence to the contrary, then yes, they can review what has been done, without a doubt. I mean, there's remedies for everybody in this case.
Mayor, I noticed another thing, Mr. Machado, again.
Hold on.
Mr. Doyle?
Again,
Todavía no termina.
Oh, you're still talking. I'm sorry.
Please.
It's that Mr. Machado keeps looking at me, and I think he's.
No, I don't have my glasses, so all I see is one big blur.
Nothing against you, Mr.
I
Doyle,
was
but
not looking
let
at
Mr. Vice Mayor Rodriguez finish.
Mr. Mayor, we're in a catch-22 here. Our first obligation as elected officials is to defend the residents of we're the voice of the residents of Nogales. So they trusted us with their vote, and they want us to represent them in the right manner. And I think, the residents have to have an opportunity to voice their concerns regarding what's going on in their neighborhoods. So it's a very hard decision to make, but there's a lot of people here saying that they didn't receive that notification. And I can't say that they're lying to me because don't have any proof. I can't say that they did receive the information because I don't have any proof. So it's a very difficult decision to make.
All I can say again is you deal with the official record that's before you. There was ample notice given, proper notice given, and yet there's no affidavits before you. There's no hard evidence before you to the contrary. And again, the basis of whether the procedure was done correctly or not is what's contained in the official record. That's what we got to work with.
So when you say hard evidence, the word of the people, that's hard evidence.
I'm sorry, that's not, I made that clear before and stuff. If somebody says somebody did this or somebody said this or I didn't do this, in and of itself, that's not evidence. Here you have, this is an official record that's going to be presented. This is evidence in court. There is nothing that contravenes that. Now, that doesn't mean that the residents don't have a remedy. If they wish to contest it, they do have a remedy. They can go into court, and if there's evidence to the contrary, then that could be presented there.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Doyle.
Yes, Mr. Machado, you keep saying that there's no hard evidence, yet the basis of their findings was that the zoning was multifamily residence, and the evidence I brought before you is that it's zoned single-family residence. So their basis on multifamily residence is false, and all their findings based on that are inconclusive. They shouldn't have stood up because they were basing it on that multiple family residence that doesn't exist there. So I brought it from the courthouse, and that's what they say, that's the way it's zoned, and that's the legal aspect. Not what we think, not what we want to say that it's somebody has a detached porch or whatever. But to be honest with you, I have one question for Mr. Gradias, and he was talking about the integrity, and I want to know if there's any conflict of interest on his behalf, because I know he's in real estate. And is it your interest that that'll develop, and maybe you'll have some lease agreements or handle some of the sales or anything that goes on?
If I may, before we get into that argument, no, he does not have a conflict. He does not.
I just want it for the record.
He doesn't. And Mr. Doyle, just to answer that question about the multifamily, the information that you brought is based on assessor's records. And assessor's records, and in terms how they classify property for tax purposes, is not what we have in our code.
Well, that's something to maybe be looked at in a different set of eyes. But what I'm also noticed that wasn't brought out was that there's a DRC, Development Review Committee, that's supposed to give input. I mean, they're supposed to represent the city and the safety and welfare of most of the community. And none of them made a comment. There was no comments from, I don't know, was it the police department that's involved with that? The engineer, maybe the fire department, and I can't understand these responsible people, the directors of these offices, and anybody else that's in part of that nobody made a comment, nobody cared about the citizens of this community, about the residents over there, about the traffic congestion that it's going to create already on a very traveled road. It's already, the congestion is already maxed out over there. It would have been nice if the police chief would have mentioned something of what he thought with his experience. It would have been nice if some of the other staff would have made comments. But when I see that they don't make comments, it creates a little suspicion in the back of my mind that something's not quite right.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Mr. Gradias, one more time.
Quick, I got a quick question. I know we don't have a planning and zoning director, but Mr. Guerra might be able to answer this. I'll come up to the podium. Does the city have a different zoning map than the county?
It might be discrepancies between the two of the maps.
Which map would this commission be looking at in order to determine what they can and can't do in this area, or how it's zoned?
I think the ones presented by the planning and zoning director.
Which are the city maps. Okay, second question I have is, based on the recommendation that was made by the committee, they looked into all this, and everything that we see in the packet even pulls further. I know there's some hard decisions we have to make, and we do represent the entire city, and not just because a select group is here against it now. I am sorry, but sometimes we have to make those decisions that are benefit to the community as a whole. Do you think that there is anything that would adversely affect anything in that subdivision where there's already townhouses?
Well, I'm limited to commenting that at this moment, because this is a rezoning issue, but in terms of my department, engineering, I have to look in the future, not now. For the rezoning, I don't have to do anything other than no objection at this point. At the time of the presenting a development, I will have to look for drainage, for setbacks, for other things that needs to, the width of the roads and things like that.
Okay, that leads me to a follow-up. This is only approving a rezoning of the area. It's not authorizing anybody to build anything because that's a separate process that goes to a different board, correct? Thank you.
Ms. Montiel, did you have something?
No.
No. Okay, and I want to clarify something. You know, I did not write the regulations. I did not write the planning and zoning structure, and I understand you guys' interest and importance of this matter. You know, and as I see the map here and go around the 300 feet. How many of you live within 300 feet of that area? Can you please stand up?
Right on the south side?
Yeah, but 300 feet from the area where we're talking about.
Mayor, all of Placita Germán falls within the 300 feet. The city has it differently. They have it in the center of the property, and you don't do that. It's on the boundary, the perimeter of the property, where it starts.
Again, you know, that.
Are we allowed to speak today or no? That was
Anybody object? Here you go.
No, it's not. It's up to you.
Go ahead, ma'am. You know.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I wasn't able to be here last time that you all gathered. Sorry, I'm nervous. My parents do live on Serduli Place, which is the street right next to where we heard that it's being planned to construct a complex, apartment complexes. That's what we heard. We never got a notice. When I heard that, well, when my mom heard
that. 301 or
41
what?
Serduli Place.
Serduli Place?
Yes.
I see one address, actually two addresses on Sedulis that supposedly were mailed letters to.
Wow.
It's on the file.
Yeah, well, my mom heard about the planning and she advised me to like everything because they don't speak the language. They're not literature and computer. So she asked me, what's that?
Where am I? Can you put it closer? Just bring this up.
Hello? So she advised me that she had heard about the plans and if I could help her out and that they were going to collect signatures. For me, that's a lot from the community objecting to this. I believe they are the most or will be the most affected since the house is the first one right next to the complex. Why? Because it's a neighborhood where mostly they're owners. They're mentioning the townhomes in front of her house, which are individually owned. They're not for rent. And if they're rented, they're by owners. So that reduces a lot of in and out people or traffic or not knowing who your neighbor is. They have bought this house, how many years ago? Like more than 20 years ago, and they have built relationship with neighbors. And they were looking into growing old in a safe place, where it's a neighborhood where they know the neighbors, where they're gonna be having people in and out. We know what happens in complex where the parking lot is not enough. They start parking in the next street. And that's a major concern for my parents, and I know for a bunch of other neighbors, because they have grew out their family and they're staying there to live a life in peace, knowing their neighbors. Now, I don't know, is this gonna affect on their investment as well, rezoning the area as how it is right now, and if they're gonna change it? I believe so. I believe it's gonna decrease the value of their homes, of their neighborhood. Also, they were saying that they never received a notice. Like I mentioned, my mom heard from other neighbors that this was going on, and I called the city and they referred me to an email for Samuel Paz, which I did email him stating my mother's name, the address, and objecting to the rezoning. I did that on September 22nd. No notice was received. She heard when they were trying to collect signatures. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm only representing them because I've been asked to, because they don't speak the language, because they don't send emails, because they're ill most of the time. So we are concerned. It is going to affect. They keep talking about apartment complex on the other end of the street where they're very, very separated from their homes. And here, we're going to have it right next. So across the street is going to be an apartment complex where they're used to, where they have invested on a home for their elderly years, or to be around their neighborhood. They have invested, they pay taxes, high taxes, because it is a nice neighborhood. I cannot compare Vista del Cielo. It has an apartment complex, but it is very, very separated from the first house. I know they mentioned Rolling Hills. It is a whole different area from Meadow Hills, and the few homes, single homes that they have, it's the minority. And the townhomes or apartments that are built there are the majority. And here, in this case, the majority are single homes, not apartment complex. And the ones that they are in Mariposa, they're very apart from the houses. So I believe they're going to be affected by the traffic, the insecurity, because we are talking about people coming in, coming out, renting, cars being parked on the street when they don't have enough parking lot, police coming in and out, like we hear that it happens. I know we need the houses. I rent myself. And I know everyone's looking to rent, and we do need that in Nogales. I understand, but I could think that there's a lot more places where that can be built without affecting people who are already settled or invested in their area.
Okay, thank you.
And I can show you the email if you need it.
What was that?
I can show that email that I sent on September to Mr. Paz.
Okay.
If you
Well, you just answered my question. When was that email sent to? Mr. Paz incidentally is no longer working for the city.
I emailed on September 22nd.
Of 2022.
2022.
Okay, that was to Mr. Paz. Okay.
Yes.
And that's expressing that.
Yes, I cited my mother's name, the address, and she opposing for the
Okay,
rezoning.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any comment? Mr. Garcia?
Thank you for letting me speak again. In the last meeting, Mr. Jose Valencia talked about when Paul Bond owned the property, they called us from the county assessor's office and said, they're trying to do this. We did not get any mail. We went to the city complex and had a meeting. And we stopped Mr. Paul Bond from building a warehouse, and then they tried to build a dental clinic back then. And then we had another builder, Chacon, who wanted to build apartments. And we have I don't know if the neighbors know, but we have a homeowners association, even though it's not in place, but it's still there, that says that you must have parking for every bedroom, you must have parking for two vehicles. That stopped him in his tracks from building those apartments. And now, when I asked about the city being, the street being paved because it was in bad shape, we asked the developers why it was being built so narrow. They said, because this is residential. Well, residential, according to my knowledge, is for residential zoning, single family. When it's built that way, the street, it's narrow. It's for single family residences. I don't have any problems with, I know that's going to decrease our values. We put a lot, I've been there, built my house 28 years ago. I know it's going to affect our values. And one thing that I know, the street is overloaded. Sometimes I'm trying to pull out of my house, and guess what? There's cars coming in and out. A lot of people from Mexico, which is, you know, by the way, the street is decent, but it needs improvement.
Yeah.
It's already washing away. So right now, I actually called the police when I was coming over. There was a tractor trailer parked on one side and 5 cars on the sidewalk because they don't want to park in the parking area. I mean, a new, brand new sidewalk, and there's 5 cars, and the police were sent immediately on the sidewalk. And I'm just thinking right now, it's a public, I mean, it's a public street, it's a school zone. It gets really, really, really bad during the school season as far as traffic. And I understand we do need housing, and I commend Mr. Barcinas for trying, but we should also think about the majority of who invested lots of money in building the homes, because it is. Honestly, I think it is. I'm not in real estate. Mr. Gardias might know knows a lot more than me about real estate, but you know that if you lived in Vista del Cielo and somebody was trying to rezone your property and build apartments, I know you would object, because why? Because it's going to affect the value. And I'm you know, like I said, we spend our lives paying for these homes, and then we're going to see apartments and the overload and traffic. And I just have really mixed feelings about this, especially, you know, when a lot of people are upset about this situation. And like I said, I do believe we need housing, definitely. But I don't think that area that rezoning has been rejected 3 times already. And it was done, we were called by the county assessor, not by the city. So I don't know who has ruling over the city or the county, because we pay the taxes to the county. So, you know, you guys are experts on it, or may not be, but to me, I'm saying it's the county that's right, because we look at our parcels, we know how much we pay, and we look at what the county actually is claiming their residents to be, a single family. We have a problem as it is with trucks right now, every day. That's what they sound like when they go through that. But anyways, anyways, right now with just the traffic itself, it's horrendous. And I understand, Mr. Elias, we do need housing, but let's take a minute and try to protect our citizens. We pay, you know, we look at our taxes. We look at our taxes.
Turn on the mic. No, it turns green. Touch your open. Right here. Así, mira. Right button, and it turns green.
Well, there you go. I'm colorblind. But anyways, we look at our taxes, and one time when Paul Bond was trying to rezone, the county assessor at that time said we pay more taxes than some of the Vista del Cielo properties because we're closer to the schools and we're closer to the shopping centers. And now we think about it and say, well, maybe the taxes should be lower because it's definitely going to hit the values. I can see that. Now, in my place, in my position, I'm semi-retired and I'm going to live there for the rest of my life. I don't know how many years I'm going to live, but I'm not paying too much attention to the value of my home because I plan to stay there until God calls me, if he ever calls me. But anyways, I just want to say that most of these people, I believe what they told me. I'm not within the 300 feet. And I don't know exactly what the measurements are, but I know the lady stood up. Her father lives right across the street from there. I'd be not worried because we don't want to discriminate anybody. We don't want to discriminate anybody, but it's going to create some problems. So I'm just saying that from the heart and people that live close by. And like I said, the street is overloaded with traffic.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
I have a legal question, but first I want to applaud you and thank you for your input. And it's not going on deaf ears. I have friends that have residents there, and my decision has to be based on if the facts were done right. Mr. Machado, is notification satisfied with posting a public meeting and holding a public meeting, or do you need to have the meeting mail, because it doesn't request for certified mail, so we don't know if they received it or not, so it's vague. Is just a notification there is a public meeting, it's posted on the website, it's in the newspaper, does that suffice the notification requirement?
Yes, I'm trying to state that. I've tried to state that very clearly. Everything that was required legally was done in this case. They sent out notices, they put it in the paper, they posted it on the property, they've done everything. And I'm talking about the process and the procedure.
Mr. Machado.
Yes, sir.
It states here on the public notice that staff processes requests to meet all notification procedures. Not that they put something on the radio or the newspaper, or it has 5 different ways that they're supposed to put those notifications. And if you leave one out, you're leaving the main one, which is the notification that the people at their residence should have received so that they could have attended that meeting and voiced their opinion. And yet the city left them out.
I'm not leaving anything out. I said that.
The neighborhood letter notices were sent out 9/15/2022. Yet nobody got it?
Again, I'm not leaving anything out. What I said is that I looked at the record. The record shows that everything legally required was done.
Except for this?
No, not for except. There's no exceptions. Everything was legally done as required. That's all I can tell you.
They might have, maybe they make the letters and for some reason didn't get into the mail stream.
So I repeat, what was legally required was done according to the record.
Mutual ground.
Pardon me?
I guess we're in mutual ground.
No, I mean, I just like.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, my wife and I have lived on Mariposa Hills Drive 30 years, and we can see the devastation this will have on the value of our properties. And I know you probably complied with all the legal requirements, and everything has been done according to Hoyle. But I did not know anything about this. I just happened to read the newspaper, and I said to my wife, what is happening here? And we don't know where the exact location of this property is in relation to Mariposa Hills Drive. And I know some of you people regard this as a classic not in my backyard. But we were not noticed about what was coming into our backyard. And we have some rights to know what's going to happen in our backyard. I know the community needs more multifamily housing, but this will be obviously the beginning of the deterioration of the Mariposa Hills Drive property. With the improvements of Frank Reed Drive, we have much more traffic. The last time I walked down to our mailbox, I almost got ran over. And we can see how that neighborhood is changing. And if you get multifamily housing in there, it's going to further deteriorate our neighborhood. And I think we need a map of exactly where this location is at. Most of us don't know what 30 degrees south and 40 degrees north means.
Location, sir.
We need a map.
Sir, the location is right. If you go towards Grand Avenue, it's right before the bridge on right and the left.
All right, yeah, that will provide some clarification.
I'm over here.
All right.
Sir, the location is going towards the bridge on the right and the left of the bridge.
All right.
That's where the location is.
Okay, that provides some clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Montiel? Go for the question.
I just want one more comment. I noticed that I'll ask Mr. Machado and then he can ask the director. When that street was made, Mr. Machado, it asked for like a 7.5 inches of asphalt, the road, and it was reduced to 4.5 inches. Would this make a difference in the safety of the road and liability towards the city in the future?
That's probably engineering. However,
Yeah.
This is not the end of the road if this is approved. If the property is developed, and there's a whole development code that the city has that the whatever proposed development is proposed must meet. And one of those things is a traffic study, what type of paving they have there, and so on and so forth. They will take that into consideration and before they approve anything. And they'll look at the parking spaces for whatever's going to be built there and so on. And depending on the size of the parcel and what they're building, there's been very many times where the project itself is reduced because of these considerations, because of the traffic, because of the parking spaces, the thickness of the asphalt, and so on. All those are things that are going to be addressed. This is only the beginning of the process.
Thank you.
That's it.
I move to approve this rezoning.
Second?
Second. Mayor?
Discussion?
More discussion. I'd like a roll call vote, please. Start wherever
I
you
was
like.
going to say roll call vote.
Un minuto o menos.
Okay.
¿Cómo piden que sea las personas de 300 pies o solamente las que reclaman si es zona residencial y cada casa mide como un acre o medio, o sea?
Esos son los reglamentos de Planning and Zoning. No son los reglamentos que hacemos nosotros.
Es una casa residencial, entonces las casas están separadas como de un acre en acre. O sea, mi casa creo que es medio acre.
¿Pero qué es lo que está hablando? No le entiendo la pregunta.
Es muy poca la gente que está afectada a 300 pies porque las casas están demasiado separadas. Cada casa tiene medio acre o un acre.
Correcto.
Entonces,
Pero eso es lo que son los reglamentos. Nosotros no lo...
pero, o sea, la zona está creada.
Correcto. Pero cuando van a hacer un cambio de esto, el reglamento es gente que está alrededor de 300 pies son los que van a ser notificados.
Pero pues sería una casa, porque si cada casa son un acre.
Digo, sí, entiendo, pero yo no no hago la regla, señorita. Ajá. Y hay cuatro direcciones de la, ¿cómo se llama? La Duli. Ajá. Hay cuatro que supuestamente se le enviaron las cartas. Last one, sir.
En eso nomás, en eso están hablando. La ciudad, or I'm saying, the city, and that property started in the center of the property, going out 300 feet, and that's not the way it goes on the perimeter, the boundary outside of it, that the property. Yes, that's the way it is, and the city's doing it from the center. Somebody has 6 acres. They start in the center of their property. They're not even going to go to a neighbor.
No, that's not correct. It's done from the
No. I was. You sent me a paper that showed where the center was in the property and that it went out 300 feet from there. That's the way you have it established.
I really don't want to argue, but I don't. All I can tell you is that
whatever the code requires was met. And
You keep saying that.
I understand that people may not like the code, may not like the result, but all I can tell you is legal requirements were met. That's all I can tell you.
No. Mayor, I know that we made a motion already to vote, but since we keep going in circles, can I call to the question, Mr. Machado? And
Thank you. Think we'll do a roll call. And going by the legal status, I'll start. And aye.
Nay.
Table it.
Aye.
Aye.
nay. Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Mayor and Council's report. Somebody else want to start? Mr. Bonilla?
I got nothing to report.
Y ustedes deben de pensar que...
Mr. Chief, can you help me? No,
Deben de pensar que ustedes están pensando en la gente que afectan. Y dicen, son
Sí.
un vecino. Pero vamos a pensar por uno o por cuatro.
Chief, please. No. Gracias.
Así como
Sí.
ustedes, échenos la mano.
Lo haremos. Gracias.
Señores, si quieren quedar aquí dentro, se van a tener que sentar y todo lo que le queríamos. Ahí está,
Yeah. Mr. Doyle, any council reports?
I think not.
Miss Miss Melendez? Any council events? Council report?
We are already working for the Fiestas de Mayo event. We're going to have the first meeting, and that's what we're working for right now.
Thank you. Mr. Gradillas?
None, thank you.
Ms. Montiel?
Yeah, just very quickly. Let me just get my calendar out. Tonight, just so it could be on record, it was passed that I would be the committee chair for four events. We are already going to start preparing for the May memorial ceremony, along with all the stakeholders, including the city manager and Mr. Kissinger. So thank you, council and mayor, and we'll start working on it. Yeah, no, but I just wanted it to be on record. Yeah, I realize that. I'm talking about myself. Most of the times we do. Also, gracias. Oh, okay. That's all. Thank you. Yeah, I do, but that's not the time.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, on February 23rd, we had a group of students from the Universidad de Sonora, and we had an event here, and they got to meet all the directors and some of the administrators and the mayor and two council members. And it was a very interesting project, and we're expecting to maybe do some more in the future. right after that meeting, went to the early childhood meeting up at the Americana, and that was also an interesting meeting. And that's all.
Thank you. I had a very busy month. Started off, we had, hold on. Started off with meetings with the CPR course, and actually last Thursday we had our first 12 policemen get certified. We're working on getting the recertification on employees from Mariposa, from the county, from the city. And that's, for those that don't go to Washington, that's going to be on March 28th. March 28th, it's going to be held at, what was it, the county? At the county, if anybody's not going to be in Washington, I would really love that somebody represents the city. Please let me know, and I'll give you the details on it. But that's going to happen as of March 28th, and that's going to be recertifications only. It's going to be the way how we start the program, and then go on forward. I spent the first week, actually made four trips to Hermosillo this month, and met with Governor Durazo. I went to an area where there's some interest for some people out of Hermosillo taking our garbage, which is something I'm looking into at a decreased price of what we pay right now. And then that's one thing I'm looking into, how we're doing it. They would take care of all the transport and everything. Met with Senator Kelly's people. I met with the people from Councilman Grijalva. We had went to Siegel meetings 2 days, and I just busy. Met with the union from Ms. Hatfield. I went to Phoenix yesterday and met with Gabaldon, talked to her. Then we needed, Ms. Hobbs' representative was here in my office. Telemundo's been doing a couple of interviews. Governor Hobb is potentially, there's still maybe, coming down on the 13th of March. 13th of March is a Monday. So let's keep it in mind. And that's, went to the Awards of Excellence with Mr. Bojorquez for the early childhood learning. But, I like what we're doing. I like how we're interacting. Again, I've said it before. We're not always going to agree, but we're going to try to do the best that we can. With that said, any future agenda items? I've got a couple. I want to try to suggest that I had the chief is doing a little study on the parking meters. And I was thinking, we're going to have a hassle on the parking meters throughout the IOI work and all that. And I was talking to the chief on maybe suspending the parking meters at Morley Avenue during that time of work. I know there's limited parking as it is, and it's going to be limited parking. But if we could do without having charging in that area, I think it'd be good for the businesses. Main thing we gotta again refer to the business people. Hopefully their employees don't park in front of them. So that's one thing. And then the other one is, I continue to look for more lighting. Thank you, Mr. Guerra, that you said up going towards the movie theater and all that. We're already looking into it. The soccer field has lighting. Thank you, Miss Travers. John, let's keep on working on the lighting right there on the country club. See what we could do. The dog park, there was some people from Meadow Hills area that talked about them being too dark. Just for everybody's knowledge, they have sensors, so they dim at, if nobody's around, and they'll bright up again if somebody's around. So people were already complaining, telling me, hey, they're not bright enough. Well, you got to get under it for them to come back. So, yes, sir.
Yes, Mayor. Does that include also turning on the lights in Nogales again? All these streets that have 3, 4 lights goes off?
All you got to do, Mr. Doyle, is let the people know. Give me a number or a picture of the posts, the Cuco number, and we'll work on getting those turned on. That's the main thing.
What is the time like usually?
No, there's been, let me tell you, I probably reported maybe 10, 15 to John in the last 2, 3 years, and it could be a week or it could be, but I've never seen it go past a month. So I think we've done very good once we give them an email from the office here. I think that they've done very good.
There's one item, let's put in
You turn on your mic?
Put a little sticky
One item that I've noticed that a few people have complained is their special event permits. They say they've gone up like about 10 times in the past year. And these are people that whenever there's a special like El Día de los Corazones or any event where they sell flowers or things like that, and they're getting charged over $300. So it doesn't leave them a lot of profit when they used to pay like $35 for a special event permit. So I was wondering if the city can be a little more lenient with them, and I'd like to put something like that for discussion.
Okay, that's for special events. Is that like a license?
Yeah.
That it's taken out? Go ahead, John.
I was just looking. Mine's on, right? I was just looking at that today, Mr. Mayor. It's in an ordinance. I have it on top of my desk. I can definitely work with Mr. Machado to bring together amendments to ordinances if that's what you would desire. But it's called out in our ordinance, the food trucks, the events,
Yeah, people that sell
the corner
events.
events. I think it's $300 for a year. And then there's
I hate to be the killjoy in this, but that's not proper discussion on this item. This agenda.
No, I just want to know what
I think it was. We'll put it on the agenda.
I want to know what to put on the future agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Mr. Jorges?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on the mayor's inquiry about the lighting. Can we have a presentation? I know that Hohokam Park has been installed some lights, and there, Mr. Guerra mentioned White Park is installing some lights there. Is there any way that we can get a presentation on how much it costs to do those lighting, and what, if we want to include other areas in the city?
Yes.
Anybody else for future agenda item? Ms. Montiel?
Send them later, right?
Yes, yes.
That clarified. Yeah, we have
We
to.
put it now, it's guaranteed.
That sounds like a commercial.
No.
Okay. Anybody else? Move to adjourn. Thank you.